This is Laurel, and it's time for Align and Thrive. So, welcome back. I'm so glad that you came back, really. And I apologize for taking so long to get this next episode out there. This is my board, which outlines my priorities for living, attaining a healthy lifestyle and maintaining that lifestyle, and attaining peace of mind and leaving a legacy. So all of those three are still my priorities. But what had occurred to me was that I hadn't done a good job of establishing why they're my priorities and how does that really fit with my core values. And so I went back, tried to find the information about what my core values were in 2012 when I set up these priorities. And I realized that I probably just picked some and said, that's what I'm all about, and didn't do a fancy exercise to define them. However, I can't prove that because I recorded it all on a surface at the time. And I can't find the data that I had recorded. When I finished these, there's movies of me, at 3:00 in the morning, talking to myself about priorities and going through all the exercises for this that I am going to find because I think that'd be fun to put on the website. So I went back and I established a process for doing personal core values. How do people do that? And there was lots of questions, lots of suggestions, and, but a lot of it sounded very corporate. I was like, I don't want a corporate core values. So I researched different, and this actually comes out backwards for you, doesn't it? So I won't show you that. I will read it to you. How about that? Personal core values. And here's the definition that I found and I really liked and thought it applied for what we were doing in this exercise. So it's deeply held beliefs that guide our thoughts, words, and deeds, shaping our lives and the quality of our character. So I think that's perfect for what I'm trying to share with you and share with myself, remind myself of what it is that's really important. My priorities for living haven't changed, but they are very tactical. And that is why, I moved back here and I just continued with my life. And I really started looking at how am I physically doing? How am I mentally doing? All those different things. But today we're going to talk about core values. So I'm going to open up a presentation, which I will be adding to this video as part of my podcast efforts, my editing efforts. The other things that I did want to mention for this part of the episode that's about the podcast journey is that it takes time and it takes commitment. And I had to say to myself, okay, you got a lot of fun things to do here. You got a lot of work to do here. You got a lot of, it's an adventure in itself. What our living here is, if you want to do a podcast and you've said you were going to do this for a year, then you're going to have to make the time and the commitment. And one thing that's really been good is that Joel has been very encouraging in that, hey, this is your creative moment. This is what you do. He does wood crafting and whittling and things like that. And so he takes a lot of time for that stuff. And he's like, Laurel, just do your podcast. It's important for you to do this, and people are gonna enjoy it. So I said, okay, that meant a tremendous amount to me that he was willing to give me that grace, right? I mean that's huge when your partner gives you that kind of encouragement. And finally, the other thing I want to talk about, a little bit about security. One of my daughter-in-laws brought up the fact that I was going to be successful, which I thought was very, very sweet. Because I'm talking about this thing this is just for me. I'm just doing this plan and I want to share this. I got to get all these thoughts out of my head and I want to bring people together. And she's like, well, that's all real nice, but you're probably going to be successful. So you need to protect yourself and protect us and be smart about it. And so what wonderful advice. So I am actually working on how to do that. I have found out that most podcasters don't hide their identity. It's almost impossible. If somebody really wants to find out who you are in social media, they can find out. I mean, they can even use your voice to go on a search and find where else in the internet is there something with your voice and match you to that. They can look at the metadata on any picture or any of the files that you share. You can, it's just, they can go back through when you signed up for your software package and you pay your yearly fees to anybody, your internet provider for that matter, and you can, and they can figure it out. So what I would ask is that everyone please remember that this is about me trying to navigate change in this crazy world and develop a plan for me. And that I'm not telling you to do this. I'm willing to share my adventure, but I bless you for whatever you need to do on your own plan and developing your own plan. And if the tools and tricks that I show you are helpful, then please enjoy them. And if they're not, well, I'm sorry if they don't work for you. Just, I mean no disrespect with anything that I say. And when you see my core values, I think you'll understand that I'm really not about anger and frustration and being mean. I really, really do care about all of you and about pretty much everyone and the planet. So that's that. So onward. Now we're going to talk about core values and how it all kind of fits together. I'm going to teach you the process that I made up. Okay, so I found my documentation and I have it on my computer and I'm going to be adding it for you to see. But basically, the process that I used blended personal reflection using questions that I asked myself to gather information about what I was thinking and what was important to me. And I combined that with using AI to identify my authentic core values in a structured and repeatable process. Because how was I supposed to tell you how I did my core values unless it was a repeatable process and it was something that I could explain to you? Because the first few people I've been explaining this to have just kind of gone, oh, wow, that's crazy. I couldn't do that. And I'm thinking, well, then I'm going to have to simplify. So I did. And there's basically 5 steps. The first one, I created 5 thought-provoking questions. Okay, so with that, the first thing that you have to do is you create these 5 thought-provoking questions or statements to get you to start thinking about what's important to you, and then you make a list of all the things that come to mind. So you design these reflective questions or thought starters however you want. But my questions that I came up with, I just 5 because I didn't want to overwhelm myself with too much data. So the first thing was, things that I would sacrifice to protect. What is it that I care enough about that I would make a sacrifice in protection of it? And then the next one was things I value in those that I admire. So attributes, actions, traits that I admire in people. Like I will use somebody who maybe is not your hero or whatever, but Barack Obama. I have always admired the way that he conducted himself and his business and the way he articulates things. And so I thought, I'm going to talk about him. And there was people who have been my mentors. One, Jerry McNellis from Compression Planning, Jim Ellis from my days at General Motors. And there's others, Henry Thompson and Cal Knowles, different people and different women too, like my mom, my sister, my friends, there's just people that I really admire. I'm not going to start naming names anymore because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And so many of you have made a huge difference in my life. And I want to, even people that I've mentored have changed me and opened my eyes to things. So thank you for your friendship and your honesty and openness and for just being you, all of you. So another one, I know I'm on track when I blank. You know how you kind of know you got it together? And it's if you're doing certain things, and we'll go through these in detail in a minute, and another one was, what are my non-negotiables? I or you must do this certain thing. It's just the way it is. Like truth. You can't lie. That's a big one for me. So, but there'll be more. I'll give you some more examples. And My favorite one of these is feel joyously alive when I am blank. And I bet some of you can even guess what at least one of those is. Ice skating. I feel joyously alive when I'm skating around the rink or when I'm out, especially when I'm out on my rink that I have shoveled on the ice and the moon is full and the stars are twinkling and the ice is creaking and cracking because it's cold and beautiful. And so that's one example of when I feel joyously alive. So those are the kinds of questions. And then what I ask you to do is step 2. You respond to each question and answer honestly and personally. I just write open, candid responses to each question. And you don't have to spend a lot of time doing it. It's not like a test. What comes to mind, like for each of those things. So let's start. I'll give you a list for my cards, for my questions. So things I would sacrifice to protect: my family, friends, my freedom, my democracy, other people. I would defend other people, and I would sacrifice to defend knowledge and truth, and to keep the planet healthy. I think those are the things that come to mind. So that was a fairly short list. And what I would say is you just list things as they come to mind. So here's another one. What are my non-negotiables? I or you must tell the truth. You must defend others and yourself. You must stand up for what you believe. I must always do the right thing, and I must never hurt people. I must apologize. I or you or I expect people to apologize to me if you're wrong in word and deed, or if I'm wrong in word or deed, I'm going to apologize to you. It's not negotiable for me whether I'm going to contribute and be productive. I have to contribute and be productive. And when I raised my sons, one thing I kept telling them was, you got to be a productive human. And Joel and I would discuss it. I said, our job is to raise productive humans. And so that's something. I must be compassionate and I must be kind, and I or you must care for the planet and the natural world. If you want my respect, these are the kinds of things you have to do. You have to earn your place. I have to earn my place. You have to never steal, and you have to be generous of spirit and worldly goods. Anyway, those are the things that come to mind. That's all non-negotiable for me. When I'm thinking about something, doing something, I'll say to myself, oh my God, you've got to do that. Because I got to speak my mind and stand up for what I believe in. So that's that. So, and I know when I am on track, when I take on a challenge or achieve the unachievable. I actually have achieved the unachievable more times than once in my career and in my life. So I'm very happy about that. I also know I'm on track if I give people hope and I be a light. And if I tackle a problem and I fight until it's done. It's so easy to start something and not finish it. But if I take on a problem, my dad used to say, don't say I don't know, say I'll find out. And that's the way I was raised. So it was pretty cool. Influence others. If I can influence others for good and make them feel like all's right or going to be right with the world, then I know I'm on track. And if I can bring people together or stand up for others, I know I'm on track. And I know that I'm on track when I think about my sons and my grandchildren and just how cool they are and how much they mean to me. I know I'm on track when I stretch beyond my limits and when I learn a new skill. I took tennis lessons this year and it was so cool. And, I'm not very good, but I'm learning, and that makes me feel like I'm on track. And I'm also on track when I do the right thing. I know in my heart what's right and what's wrong, and I try very hard to always do the right thing. And you're on track when you know it's right. So that's that one. Next one, things I value and those I admire: honesty, intelligence, compassion, kindness, the way they articulate things, their way of speaking in thoughtful and intelligent and with feeling, their authenticity, their passion, their commitment, their energy, the drive that they have to take on challenges, not just for themselves, but for others, to step up and say, well, let's just do this. I know one thing that I always admired about my dad is he always stepped up, and my brothers very much the same, and my sister, I mean, they just do things that need to be done. Doing things right and doing the right thing. So both of those are critical. My mom drilled into my head that you have to do things right. Don't just do them. She also said to do them 6 times faster. Or she could do them herself. That's another thing. But also, if you have a willingness to step up and to contribute for overall good, that's the thing I value in people that I admire. Next, I feel joyously alive when I am photographing the beauty of the world. When I'm out in nature, when I'm seeing a sunset or any scene of beauty, I'm always like, oh my God, look at that. And I take photos after photo after photo, and it's so cool. Also, when I'm exploring and discovering cool things, when I'm traveling, seeing new places, and just looking at the world from other people's eyes. When you travel around the country, you just see so many places and you think, those guys have different priorities than me, like the weather's different, the climate's different, the people are different, food is different, danger is different, the entertainment's different. Dancing. When I'm dancing, especially when I'm dancing to Santana. Why that is, I don't know. I love the beat of Santana. Also, when I'm upholding a tradition, I mean, even if it's St. Patrick's Day or leap year or, I don't know, Super Bowl Sunday, whatever, Christmas, religion, family tradition of putting your money out on New Year's Eve so that you can have prosperity in the new year. So many things. And then the next one on this list says skating, especially outside under the moonlight, which I already talked about. Riding my big tree swing. Joel built me this swing that's got this super tall, I'll try to put a picture of it, but it's super way up in the tree. And you just swing for miles. And when I was a kid, my dad built me a tire swing in this giant box elder tree, and you could go run, like it was huge. It was such a swing. It was perfect. I used to dress up in my fancy dress-up clothes and sit on that swing and swing the day away. It was so much fun. When I'm cross-country skiing, I cross-country ski with Daisy around and around our property. Or when I'm bike riding, I love that. I just feel free and joyous. When I'm learning a new skill, discovering a new idea, one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast is because I learn and grow. And I just love it. So, and when I'm spending time with the grandkids or with Daisy or people that I love, when I'm throwing a big party surrounded by family and friends and just enjoying the celebration. Joel does games and things at parties, and the more the merrier. We just love it. Those are the questions that I asked myself. All I did was take a piece of paper and write down the answers. And then for each of those lists, I decided I better analyze that. And I went back and I was trying to do some of the exercises that we used to do with at work with compression planning. And I just thought, oh my gosh, well, I'm a one-man show here. Usually when you're doing the storyboarding and you're gathering all the data and then you're filtering it down, you have a group of people. And so it's very rich, the results, when you do that. But when it's just me, I was a little uncomfortable. I said, I'm going to try AI and see what happens. Maybe that can speed this whole thing up. So for each response, ask your phone. This is step 3. You're going to analyze it using AI for your individual insight. That way you don't have to share it with other people and ask their opinion. You put it into your phone or your laptop. I used Google search on my Android, which it's also called Gemini AI. But you can use your computer or your iPhone just as easily because they each have their own proprietary AI. So one thing you have to be careful of is that they're all going to give slightly different answers because of the way they're programmed and the data that they analyze to give you the answer. AI is only as good as the data that it uses to compile a solution to a problem. So that is one reason why we are concerned when history is rewritten or websites that have had known data on them are changed, because that is going to impact the results that AI give over time. So if you eliminate all the accomplishments of women, and then you ask it a question, it's going to give you an answer that is that's not going to include that stuff. It can also be racially biased. There's very big concerns with AI, and we're going to have a session on AI to talk about that. But there's also very big advantages. So I want to use it and learn about it so that when I'm talking about it, I'm actually talking from a position of understanding as much as I can. And hopefully you'll be able to try these little things with me, and you'll develop some of your skills with using AI too. So here's what I did. I used voice to ask for each one of the questions. I said, what are the core values of a person who either answered or responded? I used those two words interchangeably, depending on whether it was a question or a thought starter. And then I would ask the question and then say, with these responses, and I'd insert all my answers. So, for example, what are the core values of a person who responded to things I would sacrifice to protect with these responses? My family and friends, freedom, democracy, other people, knowledge, truth, and a healthy planet. And I did have to quickly add all those things in, because sometimes my phone was like, "What? Are you done?" And it would just start giving me back an answer. So I had to make sure that I kept rephrasing that question so I could get the whole thing out, and my AI tool would then analyze everything that was on that list. So I'm going to give you copies of this, and I'll have it in a link on a blog so you can actually go into the templates, and you'll be able to see it while because I'm going to append those to this recording. But that's basically what I did. And then the next slide of this is an example of what the results were. So the results came out, and it basically said what core values would be for a person who, and then it repeated the question. It says, based on the desire to protect family, friends, freedom, democracy, they would, core values would likely center on stewardship, integrity, and community. And here are the key core values with this profile. And it gave me a whole bunch of information, and it was kind of detailed. And then there was a summary of core values for that question: family and loyalty, freedom, integrity and truth, sustainability, compassion, justice. So it gave a whole big list. Each of those questions came out with a slightly different list, sometimes dramatically different list. So I said, okay, now we want to analyze what the compilation of all of that information is, all that data. What would the answer actually be for what's the top 5 core values if you use that information? It's interesting because when I did this project again using different AI tools, and the examples were different, but they were very similar. So I think this works no matter which kind of tool you use. So I took each of these answers and I copied and pasted them. There's 2 ways you could do it. You could you could copy and paste, and if you happen to have Word on your phone, which I do, I know I'm kind of a geek, copied and pasted each of the sections, each of the responses in their entirety into a Word document. The other way you could do it, you could copy and paste it into an email to yourself, and then you could take that whole thing and you could paste it into a Google Doc, or you could paste it into a Word doc, or you do what you get the idea, right? You have to create one document, and that's probably sounds overwhelming to a lot of people. But I'm also hoping that I can let people subscribe so that they can, and that's something I have to learn how to do on the podcast. So you could send me your answers to the questions, and I could do the work for you and then send it back to you. So that's the other thing that I'm hoping I may put into place. I can't do that for everyone, but I could probably do it for, a bunch of you. So, or maybe I could hire people to do it for you. Anyway, that's what I'm thinking. So with that, this is actually step 4, where you consolidate and you compile all the AI responses into one document. How you do it, what you do, that's fine. And like I said, if you don't want to do it, or email me if you know me well enough, and I'll try to help you. I think it'd be more effective if I figure out a way to do this with the subscription thing, so I can, that's one thing I did learn about the security feature is you don't just let everybody say whatever they want, do whatever they want, and communicate directly with you without having some kind of a filtering method. And that's what people use subscriptions for, is to kind of just filter down people and make sure that, everybody's on the up and up. So the last step, I put it into a Word document, and I used Microsoft's AI to analyze the entire Word document. So it was 5 questions worth of questions and answers and all the results, all that stuff. And what I said to that was, give me the top 5 core values for a person who answered all of these questions in this way and got these results. And so if you have a computer and you have a Word document, up in the upper right corner of the Word app is a thing that's multiple colored, and it's called Copilot. And I clicked on that and it opened up a little thing. I typed in that question. All right, maybe I even told it that question because I'm big on using voice. Apparently that's a boomer kind of a trait, but it's easier to type, even though I'm a pretty good typer. I took typing in high school. So that ages me, right? But the compilation is needed because individual questions provided specifics on, maybe got you thinking about protecting things or got you thinking about what made you really happy. But you are broader than that. Your personality and the things that are key to your heart are multifaceted. So you use the compilation tool, put that Word document into Copilot, click the thing and say, give me that answer. And it comes out with, and I will read this to you. They called it synthesized results. So in summary, taken together, these values, based on all those questions that I answered, read like a compass. Tell the truth, even when your voice shakes. Stand between the people you love. This always kind of breaks me up a little. Even when your voice shakes, stand between the people you love and whatever would harm them. Leave every place and every person a little better than you found them. Honor the sacredness of family and community, the quiet promise of tradition, and the living beauty of the natural world. And threaded through it all is a restless kind of hope. Keep learning, keep exploring, keep creating, so the legacy you pass on is not just what you achieved, but what you protected. Isn't that, it's like, oh my gosh. So that is kind of like my guiding principles, I think. That's what I strive to be. So the next thing that it gave me was a list of attributes, and it says, truth kept sacred, to speak honestly, to own mistakes, and choose what's right when it costs something. And when it doesn't. Bravery with open hands, to stand up, to shield, to defend the vulnerable, and to refuse cruelty. Kindness practiced daily, to meet people with empathy, to serve without keeping score. That's kind of cool, huh? To give time, care, and what you can. Home made on purpose. To be loyal, welcoming, and present. Keeping traditions like lanterns that guide the people you love back to one another. Earth as a promise. To tread lightly, protect what is living, and admire beauty without taking more than you give back. Wonder, kept in motion. To keep learning, keep traveling, keep asking better questions so life stays wide. Isn't that cool? Work that leaves a mark. To show up, follow through, build with care, and think in generations, not just in days. To freedom with a conscience, to honor dignity, to seek fairness, to protect rights, and participate in the work of a just society. I think that's what's our challenge right now. Let's all work for a just society. presence, unedited, to live awake in the moment, speak plainly, and celebrate what is real. Is that the most beautiful thing? I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. This is what I want to be. But because I asked for the top 5 core values, it said the top 5 core values simplified are truth, compassion, courage, community, and stewardship for the planet and the people who come after. And that is my core values. And so my call to action to you is figure out what's important to you. And I bet it will move you the way my core values and guiding principles have moved me. So now when I look at my priorities for living, high quality of health, peace of mind, and leaving a legacy, maybe I'll be able to really understand how to achieve those things. Because sometimes you put out a goal and you really don't know how to make it happen. And maybe I'll also recognize when I've made it. I don't know. One thing that really kind of gave me pause, I thought, maybe this is my legacy. Giving people the thought that those core values could work for us all. I mean, wouldn't that be cool? I think we'd have a really cool, really, really wonderful place and a good life. So I'll leave you with that and have a great day. And I will be back next time to talk about healthy living and what the components of healthy living, physical, mental, emotional, environmental, and spiritual, because I've got some cool stuff I've been doing on that too. So take care. Bye.